Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to really break down complex subjects, pulling out the key insights, maybe some surprising facts, to make sure you're exceptionally well informed. And for our audience on the Finbot Insights channel, we know understanding wealth goes, well, way beyond just the numbers on a spreadsheet.
Absolutely. Financial skills are crucial, of course, but the whole psychological side of wealth, that brings its own unique challenges and opportunities too. So today, we're really going deep into the emotional complexities tied to having significant wealth, using insights from the study The Emotional Challenges of Wealth.
Right. Our mission here is to unpack how money really shapes our self-perception, our emotional state, especially if you've come into new or substantial wealth. And this is critical stuff for retail investors, wouldn't you say? Because these emotional reactions can seriously impact investment choices and, well, long-term financial health. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
So, we often think of wealth as just pure freedom, right? But our source kicks off with this fascinating quote from Moses Goldman. Money is a privilege to act as you will, and also a prohibition against doing as you please.
That sounds like a paradox. What does it actually mean for someone who suddenly finds themselves wealthy?
It's a powerful tension. Think about the example of Cindy. She became a millionaire at 21, still in college. Suddenly, navigating everyday things like student discounts felt, well, complicated. She could easily afford full price, so was it fair to take the discount? This led to real isolation, confusion about where she fit in. That makes sense. It highlights how just knowing you're wealthy can change how you see yourself, make you feel different from everyone else. And all those choices, wealth brings career, spending, saving, giving. Instead of feeling liberating, they can actually cause conflict, confusion, maybe even that isolation you mentioned. It's not just Cindy, right? This happens a lot.
It really does. And that internal conflict, it can show up in subtle ways that affect your finances. Maybe you hesitate to talk openly about money with friends so you miss out on learning together, or you get potentially skewed advice because you're not being fully open. For you as a retail investor, that isolation could mean keeping your investment strategies too close to your chest, perhaps missing out on valuable feedback that could optimize things. Now, to really analyze this, we need to draw a line between identity and self-esteem. Identity, or self-concept, that's basically the sum total of beliefs you hold about yourself. Self-esteem, on the other hand, that's about how much you approve of that identity. Someone called it the reputation you have with yourself. Both get heavily impacted by your financial situation, and that influences how you approach your money.
Okay, identity and self-esteem. And identity itself has layers, right? Like our sense of trust and connection in relationships, wealth can definitely shake that up. And also our sense of autonomy.
Exactly. Autonomy is about active self-governance. Your life work, your career, your creative pursuits, that's a huge part of it for many people. And here's a critical point for investors. When wealth suddenly removes the need to work, which sounds like a dream, right? It can actually strip away a big chunk of your self-image.
So the question isn't just, who am I now?
Right. It becomes, okay, now that I have the power to choose, what do I really want to do? This whole reevaluation of purpose is a major hurdle. And if you don't face that void, it could lead to neglecting your portfolio or maybe making impulsive financial decisions, just trying to find some new meaning instead of letting your wealth grow strategically.
You know, there's this pervasive idea that getting rich solves everything, a panacea, like you said, but the source suggests the reality is often quite different. Acquiring wealth can force this reevaluation of priorities, values, and that actually creates new problems or makes old ones worse. It sounds incredibly stressful, almost like a hidden financial risk.
It absolutely can be. Psychoanalyst Arnold Gilbert pointed out something interesting. People who handle the problems money brings well. They're usually the kind of people who would have managed their lives effectively even without the wealth. It suggests that your underlying psychological resilience, your sense of purpose, might actually be more important than the money itself. For investors, that really highlights needing a strong personal foundation alongside your financial strategies.
So how someone reacts to getting money isn't simple. It's this complex mix of factors. The source lists quite a few: age, gender, identity, emotional development, self-esteem, even your money style and what you learned from family. How do these actually influence financial behavior?
Well, think about upbringing your class, socioeconomic background. That shapes things. Then there's the amount of money relative to what you already have, and crucially, where it came from. Inheritance, for example, is complex. The attitudes of the person who left the money, the circumstances, was the death expected, all that deeply shapes the emotional response. And these things, they can affect everything from your risk tolerance in investments to how comfortable you feel with financial planning, maybe even whether you seek professional advice. Support systems and self-awareness about your values also play huge roles in becoming a responsible steward of that wealth.
Okay, building on that self-perception piece and all those influences, let's talk about the specific emotions wealth can trigger, and maybe start with some surprising ones, like guilt and confusion. Why is it that even with all this privilege, many wealthy people feel conflicted about having money or where it came from?
It's quite common. Take Todd Fry, the guy who converted Pac-Man for home video and made $1 million at 26. He talked about feeling self-destructive, deeply confused. He said something like, I bought the suit, the $200 cufflinks, and there's still people being repressed in El Salvador. I drive my Alfa Romeo. It's not this easy. I've been real hungry. That really captures that guilt over economic disparity. For an investor, that guilt could lead to, say, irrational spending to try and balance things out, or maybe avoiding investing altogether, almost like punishing yourself.
Wow. And that feeling, that guilt or shame, it isn't just for inheritors, right? It can hit anyone, regardless of background or how they got the money. It could be about not earning it, worries about how it was made, having way more than others, mismanaging it, not being able to help everyone who asks, even just living differently than how you grew up. All these things could drive financial decisions based purely on emotion, not strategy.
Exactly. And that something for nothing feeling. It's especially sharp for kids from wealthy families. One person put it this way: when you get something for no effort that everybody around you has to work enormously hard for, you feel you don't deserve it, and so you take revenge on yourself.
Mm.
Often, that looks like failing to truly own their money, neglecting investments, having poor financial self-worth. Michael Phillips suggested money acts like a mirror, reflecting unmet expectations and generating guilt. Think about Beatrice, wealthy but accepting a dime for subway fare during the Depression. That shame stuck with her for decades. It runs deep.
Even people who earned their fortunes aren't immune. That example of Mike, who came from a ghetto background and made it big, he felt guilty about leaving his family and friends behind, financially speaking. A real conflict between his past and present. I think the key takeaway for investors here is that you can't let that guilt paralyze you. You have to proactively engage with the wealth, maybe find ways to make a positive impact, whether through thoughtful giving or strategic investments that align with your values now.
Right. Then there's denial. Another major emotional hurdle. Ruth Gordon joked, never face the facts, but as Howard Bowden warned, facts you don't face can bite you. Look at Marianne. At 31, she thought she controlled her entire inheritance, only to find out she only controlled a fifth of the principal. She'd built psychological walls to avoid the responsibility. For an investor, that kind of denial is a direct path to poor oversight, maybe failing to manage assets effectively at all.
And for young heirs, maybe getting wealth at 18 or 21, when society says you're an adult but you might not feel ready, denial can be a coping mechanism.
It can seem like one, but clinging to denial means distorting reality pretty severely. The healthier path, especially for your financial well-being as an investor, is accepting the truth. Wealth brings unique choices, yes, but also unique responsibilities. Facing that reality is a first step to solid financial planning.
What about values? You mentioned that earlier. How does wealth conflict with core beliefs?
It's a huge challenge. Jean Le Briere said, we all covet wealth, but not its perils. If acquiring wealth clashes with deeply held values, maybe you struggled previously and believed wealth oppressed the poor, it can lead to despair. Anzia Yezierska's story is powerful here. Her success made her feel like she was part of the exploitation she used to fight against. Her father even challenged her, can you touch pitch without being defiled? Neither can you hold on to all that money without losing your soul. That kind of conflict. It can make someone hesitant to grow their wealth, maybe even mismanage it subconsciously to align with their old beliefs. It can really hinder enjoying success or making sound investment choices.
And the sheer number of choices wealth offers. You said it can lead to paralysis, not liberation.
Paradoxically, yes. Neil Simon nailed it. Money brings some happiness, but after a certain point, all it brings is more money. That romantic idea of money solving everything is often misleading. Suddenly, having countless options, especially combined with these strong emotions we're talking about, can just overwhelm people. They start questioning everything. It can lead to confusion, even depression. And for investors, that paralysis often means inaction, just not making decisions, missing out on growth opportunities, being unable to set a clear financial path.
Let's talk about entitlement. How does that fit in with sudden wealth?
It often becomes a real sticking point. Wealth disrupts that usual link between money and social status earned over time. People start asking themselves, am I really entitled to this money? If the answer feels like no, it makes it hard to use the fortune rewardingly. You see this with trust fund beneficiaries sometimes. They might feel the money isn't truly theirs. One said, I sort of felt like I had to call up when I needed money, like I were borrowing from them. That feeling can lead to misusing funds or just a total lack of ownership, which obviously gets in the way of sensible long-term planning.
And the imposter phenomenon, feeling like your financial worth is more than your actual value.
Exactly. Low self-esteem despite success. Marie, the wealthy computer programmer example, felt ashamed around friends who criticized capitalist pigs, even though she'd earned her success. Dr. Judith Silverstein observed that low self-esteem often makes people neglect their money. They only start to really own it when their self-esteem improves. It's like an incongruence between material wealth and internal wealth. As an investor, this could mean you underutilize your resources, shy away from good opportunities, or even subconsciously sabotage your financial growth because you don't feel you deserve it.
Elliot Jog called this the trauma of wealth.
Yes, when a big influx of money feels completely out of proportion to the effort involved, it creates this dissonance. People feel like cheats and frauds, constantly waiting to be exposed. And what sometimes happens, the newly rich feel they have to spend lavishly on all the perceived symbols of the upper class, almost to prove they belong. This can lead to reckless spending, totally disconnected from their actual financial goals, and obviously damaging in the long run.
Depression also comes up, especially with extreme shifts in class and wealth.
W.H. Auden put it so powerfully. To have the desires of the poor and be transferred in a twinkling of an eye to a world which can only be real for those who have the desires of the rich is to be plunged into the severest anxiety. That discomfort with old friends, the social uncertainty, fear of new challenges, it often leads to depressive states. And for an investor, depression can mean financial apathy, just withdrawing from planning, neglecting the portfolio.
Anger can be a motivator too, though, right? That "I'll show them" attitude.
It certainly can. Richard, the successful plumber who enjoyed showing off his wealth in his old neighborhood, that's anger manifesting his drive. But anger can also come from feeling betrayed by old friends, maybe due to their envy or hostility. That leads to alienation, a kind of take me or leave me stance.
Yeah.
Financially, that anger might translate into aggressive, perhaps non-strategic displays of wealth, or maybe a really combative relationship with financial advisors or family members involved in managing the money.
And what about inadequacy, especially when work is no longer a necessity?
That loss of a core purpose can be profound. Henry Ford said, idleness warps the mind. Thinking without constructive action becomes a disease. It resonates. One inheritor said, sometimes I feel as if everything I've done in my life has been a hobby. That really highlights the challenge of finding meaning when you don't have to work for money. For investors, this can look like a lack of clear financial purpose, or treating investments like, well, just hobbies, without a serious long-term game plan.
Interesting point that wealth allows you to hire people for tasks, but that requires immense self-discipline from the wealthy individual themselves.
A discipline they might not have needed to develop before, especially if they inherited the wealth. That lack of discipline can really undermine even the best financial plans if it's not consciously addressed.
Finally, panic. Maybe an underestimated reaction.
Very common and often underestimated, yes. Receiving money any significant amount, really, expected or not, can trigger it. Tracy Gary from the Women's Foundation noted this sense of isolation around inherited wealth often comes with frustration with family, friends, even financial professionals, and this ironic feeling of powerlessness despite the wealth. For an investor, panic can mean impulsive, maybe disastrous financial moves, or completely avoiding planning altogether because it just feels too overwhelming.
But it's not all negative, is it? There must be positive reactions, too.
Absolutely. It's crucial to remember that. Exuberance, euphoria, these are common too. It's a dream come true for many. Now, that initial high can lead to rash decisions or commitment, sure, but often it matures into a quieter acceptance of the new reality. The ultimate goal really is to integrate this new money into your life in a way that respects your existing lifestyle, your values, your self-image, your relationships, unifying your financial attitudes and your sense of self without needing immediate drastic changes. That mindful integration is the key to using wealth productively.
Eric Hoffer said, to become different from what we are, we must have some awareness of what we are. That seems really relevant here, thinking about how our unique backgrounds shape these reactions to wealth. Let's explore those factors. Where the money came from, how much there is, personal background, and when it arrived. Understanding these could help you, the listener, understand your own financial wiring, so to speak.
Definitely. Wealth comes from all sorts of places, right? Earning it, inheriting, marrying into it, winning, lawsuits, finding it, creating something, investing, insurance settlements. The list goes on. And the source really matters psychologically. Earning wealth often brings a sense of control, maybe more confidence in investment decisions. Inheriting it, as we discussed, can bring feelings of unworthiness that might impact how confidently you manage those assets. It puts Andrew Tobias's point in perspective that a penny invested at 2% since the birth of Christ would be worth trillions today. The power of long-term investing is immense, regardless of the initial source, but our feelings about that source matter.
And the sheer amount of money must make a difference, too.
Yeah.
Is there a threshold where things get disorienting?
It's hard to put an exact number on it, of course, but the evidence suggests that getting money that's more than, say, 5% of your annual income or maybe 3 months' salary, that often triggers a major rethink of life priorities and financial strategies. That amount often gives you the freedom to step back from work, reconsider things. But it also marks a huge shift in your financial reality, demanding a new way of planning and investing.
What about our origins? Social class, generation, ethnicity, gender, religion, where we grew up?
All hugely impactful. In the U.S., class is often this unspoken thing because of our egalitarian ideals, but it deeply shapes attitudes towards money. Even though something like 80% of American millionaires apparently come from middle or working class roots, their experience is vastly different from someone born into established wealth. This can show up in things like risk tolerance, saving habits versus spending habits. Those deeply ingrained beliefs from your upbringing really do subtly steer financial choices.
Like the example of working class individuals sometimes believing easy money disappears quickly, but paradoxically having strong saving habits. Like those clients saving regular $1,000 chunks.
Exactly. It shows how those ingrained habits, rooted in your origins, can be a powerful, sometimes contradictory force in your financial discipline as an investor.
Generational attitudes must play a role too. The Depression era versus the 60s or 80s.
Big time. The Depression fostered that very conservative Depression mentality, multiple savings accounts, maybe fear of the stock market. Contrast that with many who came of age in the 60s with that anti-establishment view where money itself was seen as negative. That created internal conflict later when they pursued professional success. Think Jerry Rubin ending up on Wall Street. Then the 80s generation, maybe reacting to perceived fewer opportunities, often showed more materialism, more drive. Each generation's collective experience really molds its approach to investment and risk.
And the age you acquire wealth matters significantly. Joanie Bronfman's research on adult children of wealthy parents.
Right. She found those getting money young, maybe 18 to 21, often hadn't fully formed their own identities yet. For them, a period of, well, maybe denial about the wealth could actually be adaptive. It gave them space to figure out who they were before tackling the full weight of financial responsibility. It suggests that for younger wealth recipients, maybe an identity-first approach to financial planning makes sense. Let personal growth happen before diving into major investment decisions.
And conversely, people getting wealthy later in life might try to make up for past deprivations, like the man installing TVs everywhere.
That's a classic example. Trying to create this elaborate environment may be overcompensating. It can provide comfort, sure, but it can also lead to serious lifestyle inflation if you're not careful. That can definitely impact long-term financial security if it gets out of hand.
So as we've really explored here, the emotional side of wealth is incredibly complex. It's filled with everything from guilt and confusion to panic, but also sometimes pure joy. Those stories Mary wondering about helping the homeless, Will avoiding colleagues so they don't know he travels, they really hit home how profound and isolating having more wealth can be. These aren't just abstract ideas. They actively shape your financial behavior.
And there really aren't easy one-size-fits-all answers to navigating these deep emotional and psychological waters. But perhaps the most important lesson learned from working with people in these situations is the need to suspend judgment, especially judgment on yourself as you start to examine how money really fits into your life. That allows for an honest look at your feelings without beating yourself up, which is absolutely the crucial first step toward managing your finances mindfully.
Exactly. Understanding these internal dynamics isn't just, interesting psychology. It's a vital tool for you as a retail investor trying to make decisions that truly align with who you are and what you value. When you recognize these potential emotional traps and influences, you can build a more resilient, more self-aware approach to your entire financial journey. You can turn those anxieties into fuel for growth, both personally and financially. That self-awareness is probably your most powerful asset in the market.
Definitely. We'd really encourage you to reflect. How might your own deep-seated beliefs about money, shaped by your unique background, your experiences, be quietly influencing your investment strategy, your overall financial picture? That kind of self-reflection It's a powerful move towards genuine financial mastery. It helps ensure your actions come from intention, not just unconscious emotional reactions.
We certainly hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights into these nuanced emotional aspects of wealth. It's a side we don't always talk about. For a visual summary and more in-depth analysis like this, please do like this video and subscribe to the FinBot Insights channel. We'll be back with more deep dives into complex topics.